Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Louis Braille, a special friend. But sometimes Louis listened and heard things he didn't want to hear. Sometimes he heard someone say, "There goes poor Louis Braille, isn't it a pity?" Oh, Louis hated talk like this. He didn't feel poor, not in any way, but he did know he was different. And as Louis grew older, this got harder and harder to bear. There were so many things he couldn't do. He couldn't play tag or hide and seek. He couldn't run down the road to a friend's house or creep with the other boys through the woods to a secret hideout. Everyone in town liked Louis, but this wasn't the same as having a best friend or belonging to a gang. Louis had always laughed and talked a lot. Now more often he sat sad and silent. "What are you thinking?" his parents asked again and again. "Nothing," Louis usually answered. But when Louis was 6 years old, a new priest came to the village of Coupvray, Father Jacques Poulet, and Father Poulet was going to change Louis's life in many ways. Father Poulet wanted to know the people of his church as fast as possible, so he went visiting from house to house. Soon he came to the Brailles. What a shame, the priest thought, that he watched Louis's bright face, that such a fine mind should go untrained. Father Poulet had an idea. Would Louis come to church for lessons, say 3 or 4 times a week? Would he? Louis was so excited he forgot to say yes. So every morning, Louis tapped his way up to the road to the big church on top of the hill. On the good days, Louis and Father Poulet sat in the garden. On bad days, they worked inside. Father Poulet taught Louis about history and science and how the stars move. Most often, he told Louis stories from the Bible, stories of good men, bad men, brave men, and fools. Louis would remember those stories for the rest of his life. Louis loved his lessons, but the priest was a busy man. Sometimes he didn't have time to give Louis a lesson. Also, Father Poulet wasn't trained as a teacher, and Louis was asking harder and harder questions. Questions Father Poulet could not always answer. Father Poulet had an idea. He went to see Antoine Bécheret, the new teacher of Coudray. Could Louis become a student at his school? Mr. Bécheret had never taught a blind student before. At first, he was not sure he should. After all, what good would book learning do to a blind boy? It might even hurt him, make him hope for too much. Besides, maybe it was against the rules. But she is so hungry to learn, said the priest. This may be true, said the teacher, but is it fair for him to take the place of a child, one who can see? The school building was very small. It was only one room. The priest sighed. "Perhaps you're right," he said, and turned to go. The school teacher was not sure he should take Louis, but he was also a kind man. "Wait," he said, "don't go away with such a sad face. I've seen your little blind friend, and he is little. We will squeeze him in somewhere." So after the neighborhood boys stopped for Louis 6 days a week, hand in hand, they walked up to a road to the little one-room schoolhouse. Going to school was very different in Louis's day. The boys sat on one side of the room, the girls on the other. The school day lasted from 8 in the morning until 5 at night, with only a short time for lunch. What a long day! Sometimes the other boys and girls grew restless. They wriggled or whispered or daydreamed. But Louis tried to sit still as he could and listen as hard as he could. He had to. He could not read. He had to listen and remember. It was the only way he could learn. Louis's memory had already been good. Now he listened so hard it got even better. Louis almost never forgot what the teacher said, even months later. Louis could also work out arithmetic problems in his head as fast as the other boys could do them on paper. But when the teacher said, "All right, boys and girls, it's time to take out your books," Louis' heart sank. Then he had nothing to do. Sometimes Louis picked up a book and ran his hands over the pages. He knew there were words on those smooth pages, but not for him. Louis was old enough to know that many of the wonderful things in the world were written down in books, things he would probably never learn. Sometimes Louis thought he was going to burst with questions, spill all over with things he wanted to know. The people around him were loving and kind, but sometimes they were too busy to answer his questions. "Wait," they said. How tired Louis got of the word. If he only could find out things for himself. If only he could read. There must be a way. Father Paulet was worried about Louis. The boy was 10 years old now. Soon he would be too old to go to the village school. If Louis was to continue learning, he would need a special school, a school for the blind. But was there such a place? Father Poulet began to ask questions. Soon he heard about a school in the city of Paris called the Royal Institute of Blind Youth. Could this be the place for Louis? The more Father Poulet found out, the surer he was. The school taught all sorts of different subjects: arithmetic, grammar, geography, history, music. It also taught blind children to trade, something they could do with their hands to earn money when they grew up. But most of all the blind children were taught to read. Father Poulet wasn't sure how. All he knew was that they somehow did it with their hands. He was very excited, but at first he said nothing to the Brailles. Father Poulet didn't want to get their hopes up too soon. First, he wanted to make sure that the school had room for Louis. But he was only a poor village priest. Would the school be interested in a letter from him? Father Poulet thought of a better way. He went to the richest, most powerful man in town, the Marquis d'Oliviers. Would the Marquis write a letter to the school about Louis? Would he tell them how bright young Louis was and eager to learn? Marquis said he would, and before long the answer came back. Father Poulet shouted for joy as he read it, for the answer was yes. The Institute would take Louis Braille. Now it was time to take good news back to the Braille family. As Louis listened, a look of wild excitement grew on his face. There was a way for him to read. There was a way for him to find out things for himself. But for his mother and father did not look nearly so excited. He is happy here, Mrs. Braille said slowly. Simon Braille nodded. I know, said the priest, but Louis is growing up. Each year he grows more different than the other boys and girls. Besides, he wants so much to learn. The Brailles both nodded. They all knew this was true, but they were worried. They wanted what was best for Louis, but they were afraid too. The city of Paris was 30 miles from Couvray. Louis would have to stay there for months. He would be able to come home only for summer vacation. Their son was just 10 years old and blind. Could he get along in the big city without their help? Louis had no doubts at all. All he could think about were those books. All kinds of books for him to read by himself. He touched his way across the room. Papa, he begged, please. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.